I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Welcome everyone to another Broken English podcast. Of course, you know by now I'm the one and only Hugo.
And I am the one and only Bola, for all the millions of people listening and watching.
Excellent timing, Bola. Excellent. And you are cordially... I was about to say you're cordially invited to a Broken English podcast, but I already began with that, so don't worry about it. Let's just get right into it.
All right.
So, I'm sure you've been paying attention to what's been going on with Tenet and the ridiculousness which has been the studios just trying to shove this film out. They've got to get this into theatres, they've got to get people watching, and now they are slowly trying to piece that together. What's your thought on the way this has been handled during this precise time?
I don't have too much of a strong opinion on it. I still do think I would have rather waited. They pushed it to the next year, just so that at least it gives us a better more space to have this pandemic a little bit more less severe. It's just like right now it's hard for me to conceive that this movie will be able to make as much as it should deserve in this current climate, especially if it's a good movie.
Well, I mean, apparently it's doing great numbers in the UK, as we have seen. It's whichever theatre it's playing in, it's got a huge audience.
Right.
And then there's the idea that it finally will make it out in September over here. That's in North America.
Isn't it August?
But the thing is, August. No, it's August now, but it's been released in the UK already. But I believe it's meant to be the first week of September it gets a general UK release.
Right.
Sorry, a general US release.
Right, North American release. For some reason I thought it was the end of August.
Well, we can verify that.
But I must have misread that or something. I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, I really do... I'm skeptical as to what the purpose is of getting it out in a rushed fashion. I get the fact that there's been a lot of marketing dollars, but as we said in a previous podcast, that's not going to be squandered. People are still going to be excited.
Yeah, I don't
think...
But
there was a period in time when you'd wait long stretches between when a film would be promoted and released.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to come out right away.
Yeah. I don't think we were saying before, I don't think the buzz is going to die from this thing.
No. You're right. It isn't September. It's meant to be out on the 26th of August.
Oh, okay. So near the end of the month. 26. See, the thing is, it's like... I don't know I don't know what's even going on in the theaters. I should go find out what's the protocol or what do they have, what exactly is happening in the theater right now if I wanted to go see a movie today. It's just such an alien concept.
Seen many. Yeah, I mean, a good friend of mine has seen quite a few films.
But they're old ones, right?
In theaters. Yes, I mean, when we say old, we're talking about the past 10 years, but he's seen things like... Oh, actually, tell a lie. Firstly, he has been seeing older ones, so he's seen like Deadpool, Iron Man, those sorts of films.
Right.
But he did, thanks to this podcast, end up seeing Train to Busan on, I believe, Netflix or another streaming service. And then he went and saw Peninsula, the one we were talking about, the sequel to it,
right,
or the follow-up to it. He saw that in theaters.
Okay, so they're basically playing blockbusters and very popular movies from the past 10 years.
Yes, and then not just that. I'm sure you've seen because I sent it to you. That means I think you've seen it. The little message said you'd seen it. But AMC Theatres, in an attempt to try to bring people back, to bring audiences back, are going to open with 15-cent tickets.
Yeah, I didn't get to read that article, but what's that about 15-cent tickets? It's
basically to get bums on seats.
Okay. But it's just kind of an odd... It's an odd ticketing thing. Why don't you just make it free?
Yeah, I mean, I saw one of the lines was they were trying to peddle 2020 tickets at 1920s prices.
So okay, they're trying to okay.
Yeah, I
I
don't
it's
quite
like
know what to make of
I
it.
don't know what that I'm just kind of missing that. Maybe the marketing around that maybe hasn't hit. If that's the case, I don't think the marketing has really pointed that out or put that out there.
I think the thing is the film industry, in terms of that aspect of it, has suffered so much, and I don't want to use the term rightfully so, but understandably so. You get why that would be what would take a hit. People sitting, as we've spoken about before,
Right.
in a crowded room with strangers. Yeah, you'll be wearing a mask because apparently there are protocols that have to be followed within the theatre, within the viewing experience.
Right.
But it's hard to say exactly what that'll be without us going there firsthand.
I think if, like I said, if they're gonna just charge that amount of money, we'll just make it free.
Seems nominal,
Is
doesn't
it?
it? It
Is it?
seems
Well, actually,
redundant.
it basically. I mean, basically at that price, it's practically free because that's literally just change I found on the. I could just find on the floor to get in to see the movie. So it seems like they're
Right.
just psychologically preparing people to get back into things.
Which in some ways is smart. I mean, at the
Right.
end of the day, I'm sure if it's going to be a situation where you pay 15 cents a ticket, you're. And again, this might just be in America because it's AMC Theatres, and I'm not sure if there are many AMC Theatres in
I
Canada.
don't think
I
there's
myself
any.
haven't seen any.
I think it's just. I don't think there's any. I think it's just an American.
Nevertheless, I'm sure they didn't lower the cost of, your popcorn and your nachos and your
Yeah, all
hot
that
dogs,
stuff.
etc.
Right.
I'm sure it's, yeah,
Oh yeah,
15
for
cents to come in. Oh, yeah, no, you quote unquote can't bring your own stuff. And, oh, you want a small bag of popcorn? That'd be $10.
right. They're gonna get you on the consent. It's. I mean, it's. I don't blame them. It's a pretty good. If it's a pretty good deal.
It is.
You know, I can finance that ticket by just putting my head down while walking to the theater and picking up as much the change on that's left on the floor all the
I
way
don't know
back.
if you could do that in this year.
But yeah, maybe it's probably around this time. That's a bad idea. So sorry, forget about that one. Just look under your
Yeah.
couch.
Well, hopefully there's that waiting around. But sort of going a little further from that, what about Mulan? I
Yes,
personally, and this is not a slam in any way on Disney movies. I like Disney movies. I don't flock towards them because I'm an adult male, and it's fine if you're into it. But for me, I want something a little more my style, and they're not my style just because of my age, and I
Yeah,
don't have children at the moment. But with
no,
that said, they are releasing Mulan
yeah,
on video on demand
yeah,
for $30 a ticket. Well, for
yeah,
$30 a rental.
yeah,
Plus, you have to be a Disney Channel or a Disney Plus subscriber. So, all in all, in order to see Mulan, you'd have had to have spent $40 because you got your base price of about $10 a month. Maybe it's $7.99, maybe $11.99, whatever it is. You got that, and then you have to, on top of that, pay your $30 one-time fee. Again, we can look at that in the perspective of maybe there's a room of people watching it with you, and so $30 might end up being $3 a rental per person.
right.
Who knows? But what are your thoughts on that?
Um, what can I say? If I'm a Mulan fan, then yeah, I'm gonna pay for it, right? I can only speak like from my own point of view, right? If you're a diehard Mulan fan, then I think it's probably worth it. But for me, I'm not, right? So that would be pricey. I wouldn't be even if it was streaming. It's not one of those movies I'm really interested in seeing. So even if it was streaming for whatever the Disney Plus cost, I wouldn't be checking it out. But I can speak. But if you're speaking in general, that's a bit pricey.
Do you think it is, even with the fact that it's a brand new release, a hyped up release, that isn't making its way to theatres. So you could always give the defence of, well, if you're not going to see it in the theatre and you are going to see it with people, is that a defensible thing?
Is that what an average Blu-ray cost?
I haven't bought Blu-ray in a long time.
I guess what they're pricing it on is basically the value of it at that moment, right?
Right.
Because I don't know what is an average Blu-ray for a movie cost. I don't know.
Again, it ranges. It depends on what. It depends on when, etc.
But a typical one, I don't think comes up to $30, does it?
I think a typical one might be around that price point.
Is it?
I'll check quickly.
And that's US too. So Canadian, that's like about $100. So I'm just joking, folks. For those who don't want to get the idea, and people said it's like, man, that's a weak dollar.
I mean, we know how the currency fluctuates. So, well, let's see. First answer from Shopville, Canada was $70 for a Deadpool Blu-ray.
$70? That's like
70. It looks like if you buy it though from someone like Amazon, it's about $30.
Okay. Even right now for Deadpool.
Yes.
Deadpool 1 or 2?
I looked. It was the first one. I looked it up just now.
Okay. I'm sorry. I just been out of the physical media thing so long. I can't even remember the last time I've ever felt compelled to buy a movie, unless it was an old one.
We know about you and physical media. You completely ignored that. You didn't care about albums and vinyl.
No, it's not like
we know, Bola.
I was very particular about physical media. Very, very particular. Yes. I had a lot of physical media when it came to video games.
Fair enough.
Right.
I mean, they kind of get you there because you don't really have many options.
You don't have any choice at that point.
Unless you completely change your system and port it to be able to do those things, then you're just stuck with you have to buy it. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing.
But even if you're bootlegging it, you still got to get the physical media. But we're just talking about the going in there nowadays and going somewhere or wherever they sell these things to buy, the Blu-ray or the physical media of a movie. And it I don't know, it just seems so archaic. Like, when you can just buy it online, buy the digital copy of it, right? I'm thinking that's probably what most people do.
Right. I think that kind of reverts back to our previous conversation on the value of the physical versus that. But my perspective, in terms of is it worth it, I would argue yes. I would definitely argue yes. I think that it's expensive. However, if it's something you really wanted to see, and if it's something you want to make kind of a special experience of, yes, these are trying times. I don't pretend that they're not. And yes, everyone's hard hit on the wallet. Mm-hmm. But again, you with every decision you make in life can weigh the pros and cons. You can turn around and go, you know what? Right now, it's not the right time for me to be spending $30 on a rental of one film. Or maybe you want to treat people with the gift of it and go, oh, let's all go watch that over at my place. Who knows? But I think that Tenet, for example, like if Tenet came out and Tenet was $30, I personally would be like, great, let's watch this, let's enjoy this. Get 5 of us together, we'll watch the film, make a little event of it.
See, this is why I made that first point. If I would do it if I was into the film. Right. The only question I asked is what makes this different from any of their other productions, or even, for example, like a Netflix or something that makes a movie that costs probably the same amount of money and they just put it on the service?
I think the differentiation between the two happens to be the fact that this was meant to be a cash cow. This was meant to go into theaters. I mean, I think Disney posted the first loss in their history over this time period because of how badly everything's been affected, from their parks to their different enterprises and so on and so forth. But the thing is they had spent so much money on this big budget production that I guess they decided they didn't want to squander it completely, and I guess they were hesitant to delay it. And so because no one knows when all this is going to boil over, they went, okay, we spent X hundred million on it, let's recoup as best we can. And maybe that's the case.
Okay. It's like I'm just curious because it's just like it seems to be a differentiation of the value of what they have, right? So obviously they think this is a premium product.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are two kind of split off things that I have from that. One, remind me in a second if I forget, Nipsey Hussle,
Yeah.
and two, the lead actress in Mulan. I don't know if you remember this, but she made some questionable comments, and I say questionable not because I agree or disagree, but because um, they were political with regards to the Free Hong Kong movement, which was very strong prior to the pandemic and is still there, but obviously with social distancing and other constraints, that's had its problem. But she was saying that she was pro the Hong Kong protests, and she was slammed with various people saying we should boycott the film, we should have nothing to do with the film. Do you think that that will have any effect? I mean, at the time, everyone was saying it would because it was meant to come out in theatres in May. What about now?
Well, the thing is like who's saying that, right? Probably ultra Chinese nationals, and they're not going to be a big portion of this film's audience,
No,
right?
no.
I just
very
know
true.
I just know the people who are raising a stink are the zealots
Yeah.
who comprise a significant no a tiny portion of the potential audience.
I mean, personally, I think I'm a fan of people speaking their mind. So,
But we see
and again,
we are, but we become into a murky zone, and I get it, but you know, all I'm saying is that we're in a really murky zone that we haven't figured out because it's not that she could speak her mind, but it's like what she says. If she said something crazy like, I don't think the Holocaust happened, and this would
right,
be a whole different conversation. But
right,
because what
right,
she said is like most of us would just co-sign on it. It's not really.
right.
I don't think you're gonna find much opposition to that here or anywhere else.
No, I don't at all.
Right.
But what I meant was, personally, I think that actors and actresses, writers, directors, etc., should be able to have a stance on any given subject
Right.
without people turning around and going, "Oh, I feel this or I feel that, and I'm going to boycott this because of that." It goes back to our conversations that we've had on people like Woody Allen,
Right.
etc.
This is
You are
so I just recognize that it's like I still trying to figure this out myself because definitely everybody should have their entitled to their own opinion. But if you're watching or something from someone and they've made something so like they have a horrendous viewpoint on something, and I'm not saying misguided, but let's just go to the extreme and say they have a horrendous viewpoint on something. It could take a lot of people out, including myself, out of their work.
right.
Like it would just be a turnoff to see anything they're in or they've done.
Have you gone back to any Kevin Spacey stuff?
See, that's a good example. I'm not a
'Cause-
unless it's a movie that really or something that really is near to dear to me, and it all depends on what it was. But unless it's something near, if I'm watching something, let's just say I'm watching a movie and Kevin Spacey's in it, right? Well, he's just in it, so there's nothing really much I can do about that.
Right.
But I'm not gonna sit there and lie while watching him. All that stuff is in the back of my mind, and it's trying to take me out of it.
Right.
I'm not, like I said, I'm just trying to be honest with you. Anybody watching that, knowing what happened with him, that's gonna be clouding. That's going to be a screen now over whatever he's doing on screen, and now it changes fundamentally your perception of this film or TV show you're watching. Like I
Yeah,
loved
I
House
think I
of
kind
Cards.
of went off a. I think I went off track a bit by talking about the extremes. More so, with regards to this particular actress, she voiced an opinion on a political movement. I don't think that should be chastised. And I also don't reckon it's going to have a huge influence on the way the film does or does not perform. Most little children that want to see Mulan are going to turn around and go, "Oh, it's Mulan, I got to see that."
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be any real impact. The reason I brought up Nipsey Hussle was when you spoke about the value for product. I don't know if you know much about how he became who he became, but when he was independently selling his records, he sold them at a premium for the same premise that you said with regards to trying to have a product that you believe enough in its quality that he would sell them for $150 a CD.
Wow.
So you'd go to a show and you'd see one of his performances. You try buying a CD afterwards. Be like, yeah, that's $150, and that helped him solidify his name and gain a reputation as someone that was confident in what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's an interesting dynamic of having a higher price, and then, the price symbolizing what you believe in your work.
Right. The value of your work.
Precisely. I mean, that changes when it's a corporate enterprise, but nevertheless, independents should still value themselves as what they are. They are artists creating art.
Yeah. I was just listening to him yesterday, and that line he says, "Fuck the middleman," was just like, I love that line.
I mean, kind of going back to another one of our topics that we spoke about with President West, one of my favorite lines from him.
Oh my God.
One of my favorite lines from him, and you know this about me, every agent I know knows I hate agents. And for anyone that doesn't really know me, which will probably be the majority of you because of the fact that we're going out to whoever wants to watch this, see this, hear this, whatever, I don't like agents. They're not bad people.
No.
I just like relying on me, and I like dealing with people directly.
I never had an opinion about agents until I got one. It's like,
right.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, this is not a slam on my agent, because what he does and what they all do is just pretty much a snowball effect from the top of this whole industry, right? It is what it is. But I've just, being through this system, especially in the film industry, I've grown to hate how it all works.
There are many, many additional steps that there need not be.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's like just going back to Nipsey Hussle. I mean, it's just like just listening to him and then listening to a story and, the things he's talking about, right? And it's like, and I see how this industry operates from every aspect of it. It seems so archaic and bureaucratic, inefficient. It's just crazy how it all works. It just destroys creativity and talent.
Right. Bear in mind, anyone listening, that Bola was referencing only every other company apart from Broken English Films.
Right.
Broken English Films is exempt. We are efficient, effective, considerate, non-bureaucratic. We are the smoothest, streamlined experience that anyone will get. BrokenEnglishFilms.com. Check us out. Anyway. Keep it going. But no, I completely agree. There are ways in which the bloat and the convoluted steps that occur just really make things harder, less effective, and futile.
Yeah, I've been really reflecting on it recently, like a lot. In the last couple of days too. It's just kind of thinking of how this whole thing works, and it just seems so stupid. It just reflects so much of what, because I think all of this stuff at the end of the day reflects what you're seeing on the screen.
You do?
Yeah, because I say this because you see most things, and I think you would agree, most things that you see are unforgettable, right? And also there's just a whole lot of stuff that's just not, is either unforgettable or horrible. And there's only a few things that really stand out. And I think that's becoming more and more. And the thing is, it's like, well, what happens when this, I think this is a byproduct of what happens when you have a system where it doesn't value the art form itself. It's just another money-making enterprise, right? Another soulless, and I understand there's a business aspect to it. There's no avoiding that. But when everything just becomes that and that in itself, right? And the art and the creativity and the the let's just say the art and the creativity, the great art and creative part of it becomes less and less, and it's more about the bottom line, right? Then a lot of things are just destroyed in that process. So for example, I mean, let's just say if you can't find actors that are great where you are, right? Don't you think
Right.
that's going to hinder what you're doing? What you're trying to create here? If all you have are actors who, because, and I say this because, let's just say you have all this talent, right? That's potential talents. But because of the way this thing works, these people are not being incubated or put into a process where they're being nourished. They're being supported. They're being developed in some sort of institution or process, right? They're just put into the thing and they go, you figure it out, without any kind of mechanism that kind of will develop these. And like saying, I see a lot of people who are really great, really talented, but because of politics or certain dynamics, they just don't even get themselves into the room. They can't get themselves into the room or something like that. So if you're a casting director or a director or producer or something, there's all these Daniel Day-Lewis's hanging around, but because of the way things work, you just never see them. So you're never gonna get you're never gonna get these amazing talents in whatever you're creating. And then the same thing goes for probably you could probably make the same argument for the filmmakers too.
I mean, in that regard, I would definitely say those things exist. I would definitely say that's a problem. My confusion in what you were saying was, I don't think it's reflected on the screen. And what I mean by that is, I think the end product that you end up seeing in any film or TV show, the way that it's done, mm-hmm. is coaxed, polished, and edited, is cleverly organized to make the stories still flow if the people behind them are talented. Now, on the spectrum that you were referring to with regards of the pool of talent and the filmmakers that actually get their foot in the door, I completely agree. But the only way that can really be solved is if the average audience member decides to diversify the outlets in which they explore films, the outlets in which they explore content. If they are consistently just going to particular streaming sites, if they are consistently just going to particular physical theatres, it ends up having a situation where the studio system and the model that has bred goes, no, you're going to watch this, and you're going to watch that, and you're going to enjoy this, and you're going to enjoy that. And it just kind of churns out almost a 2.5 Men type, here's some shit, enjoy it, even if you don't, we put in a laugh track, right, so you know when to laugh.
Right. You've seen this before, right? You've seen this before where something was taken and pretty much destroyed by the studio and the producers. I think we've all seen that, right? That's like one of the things I've seen it firsthand, where a studio takes something that seemed to be really good, and then they, for some reason, made decisions that were just really, really poor, right? When it came to those things. And this comes from the fact that you have a lot of people who are making these decisions, and they're not creative people; they're business people. Right. So you kind of question these things, because if you're not a creative type of person, you're just an accountant or you're just a business guy. Well, I would imagine that would reflect on what the things you see, because the things you see are based on these people's decisions. Right. So with that being said, if you have a lot of people who have their hand in this, and they're not artists, they're not creative types, they're not you have the opposite of what you should be having in this, I think it's going to reflect on the things that you see.
I can understand that. I wonder whether you're talking about a particular film that I was going to bring up anyway. And if you are, that's great. And if you're not, well, it's up to you to say.
Well, I mean, there's no secret. There have been many films that have gone that way, right?
Okay, well, I wanted to actively criticize a film that I worked on briefly. Maybe someone else worked on more in depth, but I saw recently, and that was the new version of The Predator. I saw the new version of The Predator on Netflix last week.
Oh, you saw it?
I did. And it was after it was a stress-filled day, and I thought, I just want a kind of let yourself go action film.
Right, yeah.
I'd seen the other ones. I thought, okay, why not? And I'd worked on it briefly, and all the prototype drawings and imagery that I'd seen of what Predator was going to look like, etc. And some of the props I'd seen, all the rest of it. All right, let's give this a go. What utter shit.
Right.
What an absolute... Like, don't get me wrong. The people that I met on the film...
Yeah.
Like, I met Shane Black, who directed it. I'm not sure if he wrote it or not. Lovely guy.
Yeah, Kiss Kiss
Seemed
Bang
really
Bang.
nice. Yep, he's done some great work. This was not an example of that. And again, I don't know whether it had to do with the studio involvement, whether it had to do with X, Y, or Z. But what an absolute waste of time blockbuster. I mean, the usual thing you can expect with a blockbuster is to not be utterly annoyed that you're still watching it.
Yeah. At least if at the worst you're hoping, okay, it's forgettable.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this was just bad.
Yeah, it was just like, and I'm telling you this because I was there. I read the script, right?
Right.
And I went while going into the theater to watch this, and I'm like, this was not the script I was reading.
I did not read the script.
Right. I had the script in my hand for over a month, of almost 2 months. So I knew what kind of movie this was. I knew everything what was going to happen. I knew all the beats, the scenarios, the sequences, and it's like, wow, there was only 1/3 of that script that made it into the final thing, or
Really?
sorry, a quarter of it made to the final thing, and I was so shocked. And clearly, to me, it was not. It was a studio thing.
Right.
I mean, how else? Why else? I couldn't possibly conceive it being the director or even.
Did he write it? Do you know?
Yeah, he did. He had a co-writer too. I can't remember his
Okay.
name, but Shane, and he had a co-writer that wrote it. So I don't know what happened. I mean, who knows? And I'm not gonna say I'm gonna put all the blame on the studio too, because it could have just turned out when they finally saw maybe a cut of it, it just for some reason it bothered them. But I understand too that it's just, you know, you have these people hanging around, and then they see something, and because they have a formula of creative, they have a formula in their head. They really don't see the film for what it is, right? They're just looking for certain things. I hate to be repeating myself, but I mean, this is one of the reasons why we see so many remakes and reboots.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, as I say, when I went into that film thinking this is going to be a pretty... I wasn't thinking I was going to be moved to tears. I wasn't thinking I was going to be emotionally just put through the ringer. But I did think I would be able to not hate it.
Right.
I tried.
I tried. I don't know at one point where I realized it wasn't working for me, but I just remember when I was...
I think 5 minutes in for me.
Something like 5 minutes, holy shit. There's something about that opening title sequence. You just saw the titles in the font and you're like, this is not working at all.
It was the awkwardness on the bus. It was the awkwardness. Like, I didn't think the bus worked as well as it could have done.
I don't know. I remember that. I remember filming that scene and it seemed more fun. I'm not sure. And I'm trying to remember because it was a lewd scene. There's some lines in there, but it seemed...
Yeah.
It seemed more fun filming it than watching it. And I don't know. And I can't remember if 100% if that had to do with the fact that they cut it differently or they took stuff out of there. Because there's all those just really lewd jokes in there. So I couldn't remember 100% if they did something to that scene. But that was like one of those... I remember those days. And I was like... That was like... Just being on that bus and just thinking, I think this might be a decent movie because I just kind of see what's going on and it seems interesting. And it was because of the characters. Mm-hmm. The characters stood out for me more than the Predator and the scenarios in the film. But it was like, I genuinely see unique characters here. What Thomas Jane was doing, what Travante was doing, what Boyd was doing. they seem like genuinely interesting characters.
Mm-hmm.
But
They did.
something happened.
I mean, the thing is, it was sort of that perfect confluence of talent. And again, as you say, I did not read the script. I don't know what was omitted. I don't know the politics behind it or how that went.
Right.
But I'm a fan of Thomas Jane. I'm a fan of Keegan Michael Key. I'm a fan of Sterling K. Brown. I'm a fan of Olivia Munn. I'm a fan of a bunch of different actors that were in the film.
Yeah.
But it did not do it for me.
Yeah, it messes with this is what I had high hopes for, because it's like the energy that they brought to it, especially Thomas Jane. I mean, watching him was just really, really, really mesmerizing, because how he just builds that character. But but when I finally saw the final product, I just didn't see that magic I was watching while they were making it. And I knew there was there were some troubles too, because when you hear reshoots, it's not always when you hear reshoots and things like that, it's like that's not a good sign. A lot of times it's a big indicator of something's wrong.
It could be that, or it could just be something as simple as a lighting or focus issue.
Yeah.
But no, that was one of those which I saw thinking, yeah, this is going to be a little bit of escapism. I don't have to think too much about this. It's going to be enjoyable. And no. What I did see recently, though, and I don't know if you've seen it yet, and I was actually quite impressed with it. It's kind of a strange drama comedy, is Upload. Have you heard of that?
No. Upload, no.
It was an Amazon Prime original. Sorry, it was a Prime original. I don't know how they define it now. It's just branding. But anyway, it was filmed here, so there were lots of familiar faces in there.
Right.
And the premise is basically, it's set, I think, about 15 years in the future. And you can back up yourself to live in a virtual afterlife and interact with your family and your friends, etc. It's kind of this plot about, and it's also by Greg Daniels, and Greg Daniels did The Office, and I believe he also did Parks and Rec, as in the American Office,
right,
and Parks and Rec. So it's got a comedy mind behind it, but it's actually quite good. I was really impressed with it. They've only done the one season at the moment,
right,
but it's all available on Amazon Prime.
Right. Well, I think I should check it out.
Yeah, I think you should. I haven't yet seen Bad Boys for Life. What was the catchphrase again?
It's like, what was it again? We ride together. We die together. Bad Boys for Life.
Brilliant.
Right.
No, I've not yet seen it.
I thought you were gonna watch it.
I was going to, and then I.
So you put that on instead of you put The Predator on instead of that.
I did. We all make mistakes.
Well, I'm curious to see which one you would like better.
I really hope I don't like Bad Boys for Life less than I like The Predator. Because that would be a very poor reflection.
I don't know. It's hard to judge whether you're... it's going to be hard to tell which one you're going to like better or not.
Yeah. So another thing that I was curious about, what your thoughts were or were not. Did you hear the latest news about The Matrix?
No.
So the Wachowski, I don't know if they now just go by the Wachowskis or the Wachowski sisters. I believe they just go by the Wachowskis. They both have. Was it they both?
I think it's just one of them is a transgender. So I think they just.
No, they both are. They both are.
Linda and.
It's Lana.
Is it sorry, Lana? Lana, yeah, Lana.
And I forget the name of the other one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But
right.
Basically, what they had done is, I say it like they've done something. What they decided to do was disclose that the original premise of The Matrix was a step further that had to do with identity, and it had to do with them and their initial identities as men. And the red pill versus the blue pill actually had an overarching meaning, which connected to gender identification.
Mm-hmm.
And in actual fact, it was an allegory for that.
That was their original allegory.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find the name of both of them.
Jeez, they couldn't have.
But I find that fascinating. I find that really, really cool, actually. The personalization of a project to that degree that ended up becoming a global phenomenon, which people examine on a great number of levels. Actually, yeah, it's now Lana and Lily Wachowski.
Okay, Lily. I didn't. The last time I checked, I didn't. I only knew the brother, one of the brothers. So now they're both. Okay, all right. See, the thing is about the Matrix. God damn, I love that movie. And the thing is about the Matrix that I've noticed with people is that there are so many people who are seeing that movie in a totally different way.
What do you mean by that?
Where the way they interpret it, because I think that movie had. I see. Well, let's just say in terms of politics, I see a lot of people both on the left and the right using that movie, and especially the allegory of the red pill and the blue pill, right? And you see all over YouTube or websites. Oh, I'm about to so and so has red pilled you or blue pilled you. Or sorry, what is right? You just see it, right? And sometimes that's tied to some sort of like really regressive argument. Like it could be something completely racist or something completely sexist, but the person who's creating this material thinks they're enlightening you, so they use that allegory of you're going to be red pilled, right?
It's become a cultural mixture where it is something you can allude to.
You can allude to it, but it's like I'm just saying it's like probably if the Wachowskis were watching this video that I'm supposedly being red pilled about, they probably would turn it off. It's just fascinating to me that there's a lot of people who interpret what's being said in that movie in their own, the messages and the symbols in that movie, and they're using it for their own purposes, and I think those purposes don't exactly reflect the values of that movie.
But isn't that the poetry of art?
Yeah, it is. It is the poetry of art. It is. But I do find it is, how would I describe it? Peculiar.
Okay.
Peculiar in that sense. That it's like, I'm just saying is like whatever you're trying to espouse here, I think the creators of the thing that you're using here would probably throw up while watching this video or something like that.
I forget who it was. Maybe it was David Lynch or someone like that basically said that art in all forms is to be created and for others to judge,
right?
Not you.
Right, exactly.
So you make it, you put it out there, and then you could love it, hate it, interpret this, interpret that. You could think that the fact that I put a pitchfork there means this, or you could think the fact that I put it there means that. Whatever it is, it's on you. It's yours now. I've made it for you. I'm going to leave it alone.
I guess it's
that I find beautiful.
Yeah, it is, and that's what's the beauty about art, that it can be just interpreted in many different ways. But sometimes when you find the interpretations don't even have a common thread, or totally at the opposite of the spectrum from each other, it's kind of fascinating.
It's deeply fascinating. What I really like, though, is the fact that I think if there is something with a particular meaning behind what the writer, singer, actor, whoever it happens to be, wanted to convey,
right,
I think it's important for them to divulge that.
All I'm saying is, like, I see a lot of pro-Trump videos alluding to the red pill, and it's like, I think if the Wachowskis, I'm pretty sure that, like, if they were watching this,
his track record with transgenderism, not too great.
And everything else, they're probably like cease and desist. Right?
I mean, who is it? Was it Springsteen? No, Neil Young has been going crazy trying to sue Trump to get him to stop using his songs at his rallies.
Which song is he using from Neil Young?
I forget exactly which one, but the fact is they're just still going ahead and doing it anyway.
Right.
I'll keep on rocking in the free world or something.
Right. You see how it's funny, right? I remember when Bruce Springsteen was didn't well I didn't remember, but I know that how Bruce Springsteen didn't want Ronald Reagan to use "Born in the USA," right? And the thing is, if you listen to the lyrics of the song, it's like it's not a pro like rah rah USA song. It's a protest song.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think though, with regards to the Matrix, what I was trying to get at was basically when an artist creates something,
Yeah.
and it does have an underlying meaning, I like that they allowed a period of time, actually a really long period of time, but I like that they allowed a period of time to not necessarily unveil the truth behind what they wanted to illustrate. But I like the fact that they did come out with, this actually means this, or we were intending that,
Right.
or whatnot. I think it's important that if you do riddle any sort of story with hidden meanings, that at some point you divulge it. Because, yes, things are subject to interpretation, but say, for example, the film is seen 100 years from now.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see it through the lens of, firstly, just the subjective of at the time the person's seeing it, and then secondly, the understanding that actually they meant this. Whereas if they never turn around and go, actually, we were referring to this particular perspective, this particular metaphor, if no one ever is told that, then it will be everyone's making interpretations. Where if people are told that, it will be, okay, this is what I wanted to say to you.
The
Do
movie.
you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but the movie always seemed to me about liberation and freedom,
Right.
and that when you have and I think that's universal, so that can go everywhere.
Precisely. But it's interesting when they say, or if they do clearly say, it meant that, but for us writing it, we were writing it with the perspective of this.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that, it just becomes universal because obviously that's what it meant to them, right?
Right.
But they were writing from the underlying basis of liberation and freedom, right? So they were writing from that undertone, but to them, for them personally, it was about gender identity.
Right. So sort of connected to that, they're filming back to back, and I have not seen these films yet. I'm curious, I think you have told me you have, but you could tell me whether you have or haven't. They're filming John Wick 4 and 5 back to back.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Have you seen the films?
I've seen the first one only.
And? Is there a reason you've only seen the first one?
I've only seen the first one. I didn't really do it. It didn't really do anything for me.
I don't remember the last time that I have heard of a film have so many sequels so quickly.
No, I get it. I mean, I see it and I was like, oh, okay, I know the audience for this. And I just think my taste have changed and quite a bit. I probably would have been something like that more probably 10 years ago.
Right.
But it just, to me, it just seemed like a run-of-the-mill action movie to me. Mm-hmm. And it just wasn't something, but it wasn't something I really connected with. But I recognize that there's a lot of people who loved it, and there's an audience, right?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose for me, in recent times, something similar would be Jack Reacher.
Yeah, I never watched that.
Did you see that one?
No, I never watched it.
So, it was a film which I saw with a friend of mine, and she really liked it, but I walked out of the theatre kind of laughing at the film we just saw.
Right.
It's one of these super spy type films who's really tough, with the guy being really tough, and he could just seemingly defeat anyone.
Right.
And yeah, the only highlight of it in the first one anyway, I didn't see the second one, I don't know if they did a third, but was Werner Herzog playing a bad guy.
Werner, who?
You don't know Werner Herzog?
Werner Herzog.
Yeah.
He was playing a bad guy.
Do you know who Werner Herzog is?
Maybe I'm confusing. You're not saying Werner Herzog, right?
Yes, I am, but it's pronounced Werner.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know he was in it.
Yeah, he is. He plays a bad guy.
Is he?
And he has his very slow way of saying what he's trying to convey. Yeah.
Okay.
That was a horrible Werner Herzog impersonation. I'm sorry to everyone that had to endure that, but nevertheless, yeah, he plays a bad guy in it.
Was it good?
I mean, his part was.
Right. Okay.
He's great. How could you not love Werner?
I'm just saying if he's great as a bad guy in it, all the power to him. I'm not. I have nothing against.
I feel like 5 years ago I could do a good impersonation of him.
It's just probably you gotta. It's your throat thing. It just probably just takes a little bit of practice.
Yeah.
It's like all good.
Very upset.
Next time we'll rehearse. You can rehearse it before. If you
I'll
do
practice, watch some videos, get the movements right.
Listen, some people love that film, but for me, it's like I need something. I need things with a little bit more depth and more cerebral for myself. For me to.
You do?
I occasionally, obviously, I like. Occasionally I'll just put on something because it's just
we
like
ride or we die. Bad Boys for Life.
So I say
Cerebral.
Typically, I crave that, but if the movie is generally fun, I'm open to it too, right? I mean, I love the first Bad Boys.
Yes,
It was a fun movie.
I know. I like a film with depth. I like a film with meaning.
I predominantly prefer a film with depth. It's not like I wouldn't watch a movie
Fair enough.
Predominantly.
Fair enough.
But
so
even
you won't be tuning into John Wick.
I've got to catch up, dude. It's like if 3, 4, and 5 come out, and it's like I gotta watch. I have to like catch up 2 films before that to get into that whole thing.
I mean, that's like, not hard for you to do.
I'll be in line for The Matrix, so Keanu will get my money, but it'll be for it'll be for that. See, what was that movie with Tom Cruise and I love that movie. Was it Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx where he plays a bad guy? So my memory's going crazy.
Control.
No, not Control. No, the one that was done by Michael Mann. Collateral.
Wasn't it? Oh yeah.
That was a fucking great movie.
It had a C and it had an L. But yes.
Yeah, that's where.
And an O.
Your heart was in the right place.
No, only one of them. Yes, it did. Anyway, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that was. I was like, Tommy, you got to do more movies like this.
Michael Mann is one of the most underrated directors.
Yeah,
like he has a great catalog. But Tom Cruise, have you seen Magnolia?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, he's amazing.
I remember that. I remember specifically that interview scene too, where she calls him out.
Yeah,
and it's like it's just. It's great cinema where you can just, that's what I'm saying. It's like these are the types of movies, in the moments of movies where you just like they just burn in your brain because they're so great, right? Where she just calls him out, and then it's like you could just see him, you could just see, the character. You could just see what happens to him internally.
Paul Thomas Anderson,
is
superb. Like that man does. Just brilliant work. And I remember when I saw Magnolia, I saw it with my brother at Metrotown, and I was blown away by it. Loved it.
I watched it at home.
Absolutely loved it.
I don't even know where I was watching.
That was the first DVD I bought, I think.
Magnolia.
Yes, that was the first DVD I bought.
Yeah.
So I bought a DVD player, first DVD, Magnolia.
Wow.
Boom. Brilliant.
It was a great movie.
Brilliant.
And then some people, even to me, the ending, it was still a mystery to me, but
I loved the ending.
I'm not saying I hated it. I was kind of like scratching my head at what it all meant, but it was still a brilliant movie.
But again, that's what harkens back to what we were just talking about with regards to The Matrix and art and interpretation.
Yeah.
Because you look at it, what it meant to you, what you interpreted by it, that's everything.
Whatever it was, that was art.
I mean, it was superb. But then again, I don't know whether I've spoken about this on the podcast, but I believe I've mentioned this to you in person. Mulholland Drive was one of those. Have you seen Mulholland
No,
Drive?
I haven't seen that actually.
Okay, Mulholland Drive is a David Lynch film with Naomi Watts, and it's one of those films, like a lot of Lynch work, where it's a little bit puzzling.
Yeah.
And literally, that was one of the only films I have ever seen where the auditorium was filled, and after the film was done and we all came out, we were literally saying, strangers were debating what happened or what that meant and what the storyline was.
Right.
It was that confusing. And the problem is there's no cohesive thread throughout the film. There's just characters playing almost abstract, seemingly connected roles, but hard to properly put the dots there.
But was it good? Because I felt like that for Pulp Fiction.
Oh, no, you did not.
When I first watched...
You
No. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. But to be honest with you, when I first watched it, I didn't really 100% know what all that was about. But there's something is that there was something about it that still I thought was amazing. And I had to watch it over and over again to kind of...
I loved that film from the first time I saw it.
No, I loved it. I'm just saying it's like... But if you asked me, what was that movie about? I couldn't really... Initially, I couldn't really tell you what it was about because, like, what was the underlying movie about? But I loved it.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction is a favourite of mine, and Magnolia is another one. I mean, there are so many fantastic films.
Right.
And
That's
that's
like...
why...
No, I was just saying, I don't think... all I was saying is that even with that, it could still be a great film that people like. I'm just curious if were they discussing that because they didn't like it, or they were just discussing it because there was a lot about it that they didn't really know what it was about, but they were generally still engaged.
I think it was genuine intrigue.
Right.
I mean, when I say the lack of understanding, you may have had a small portion of Pulp Fiction that you were missing on the first view. Mulholland Drive, I guarantee you, if you watch it tonight, you will not go, oh yeah, it meant that.
Right.
Oh yeah, that was the story. You will be confused. It was an artistic piece. It was that. I don't know that I would be able to turn around and say that there was a cohesive storyline that could have been picked and removed from it. It was fantastic to watch and entertaining, but nobody that left the auditorium when they saw that film seemed to fully either get it or they walked out with an opinion, but nobody definitively knew.
Right. Okay. Now I'm curious.
What's going on in the background there?
There's some birds.
Okay. Tell them to keep it down. I'm trying to record something here.
Just throw a rock. Jesus, those things are loud.
And on that note, we're going to bid you adieu, ladies and gentlemen.
We're going to be
We will bid them adieu.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I wasn't sure you were talking to the audience or the birds.
Entonces, hasta luego.
On that note, folks, we'll just leave it at that. I'm gonna go check out what's this? Was it Mulholland Drive?
Mulholland Drive. Yeah,
Mulholland Drive.
Based on, I think, a street in LA.
I've heard of this movie before, but it just sounds interesting.
Justin Theroux, Naomi Watts, and yeah, give it a watch.
Is it on Netflix?
I'm not sure.
Well,
maybe
I have to buy it.
But it's worth checking out. All right. On that note,
all right, folks.
We'll speak to you all soon.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep it real.
Yes. Do that.
Peace.